So I first wanted to shout out everybody in the back row, because when I was your guys' age, I was definitely sitting somewhere in the back row. So Reed, appreciate you back there. I hope you guys learn a lot today. You know, one thing I think you guys all should know up front is a little bit about me, because then hopefully the information that you're about to consume makes a little bit more sense. So I lived my whole life from like the age of 4 planning on playing in the National Football League. My uncle played for the Atlanta Falcons. He is now hanging in the rafters. His jersey number was retired. I was named after him. So my whole life was dedicated to football, football, football. My mother is tired of throwing the football because she used to throw the ball to me 500 times a day after school. However, in 2008, my dream came to an end when my coach cut me unexpectedly from my college football team. So at that point in time, I realized that I will never put my destiny in anyone else's hands but my own hands. So if you work for somebody, you're not in control of your destiny. Would everybody agree with that? If somebody employs you and pays you, right, you rely on them to get a paycheck. You rely on them to get a promotion. You might be the most talented person in the organization or company you work for, but you might not get that raise. Somebody else might. So in 2008, when my dream came to an end, I realized that whatever I did moving forward, good or bad, I was going to take accountability for. So everything that you're about to learn today is stuff that is self-taught, self-experienced, and these are all my own theories that I've come up with over the past 15 or 16 years, because 15 or 16 years ago, I was sitting in your guys' seats. So now I'm 36, and I want to tell you guys one thing, that the next 15 years of your life is going to fly by. Before you know it, hopefully all of you will be standing up here one day speaking to people 15 years younger than you. Whether you choose to do that or not is a different story. But you guys all showed up today, which is half the battle, right? I don't know how many kids go to this school, but I could guarantee there's more than are sitting in this room. So let's get into the presentation. Is everybody here to learn about like real estate or business or money? Anything else that I didn't cover on? Does anybody else want to learn anything that I could teach you about? I want this to be interactive, so if you guys can stop me, ask questions, please do that. So this presentation is going to teach you why your age group is perfectly positioned to succeed in the real estate market. Now you're probably thinking like, I have no money, I have no job, I might not have a credit score, right? All that stuff's okay, because you don't need a job to succeed, you don't need money to succeed, and you don't need a credit score to succeed. Everything that you need to succeed sits inside of you today, right? So if you think you're at a disadvantage, you should probably get out of the room, right? If you guys think that you have an advantage, then you guys should definitely stay. So this is called the new game of real estate, how to play, how to win. There are 2 O's that everyone's faced with, and depending on who you are and your mentality, you either look at the O as an obstacle or an opportunity. I'm a big believer, and this is learned, okay, that obstacles that you're facing are opportunities. So when you run into a brick wall, look at that as an opportunity to not run into a brick wall again. And any obstacle that you're facing is an opportunity for you to become better, for you to learn, right? If you face an early life obstacle, you're ahead of somebody that hasn't faced that obstacle yet, because now you can know how to navigate around or over or through that obstacle. And that's where the opportunity lies. Does everybody understand that? So would you say that you sitting here today is an obstacle or an opportunity? Opportunity. Did anybody have any obstacles when you found out about this event that you had to kind of move around, a class you had to not go through, work you had to be late to?
Well, I usually have work.
You have work?
But since it's predicted to rain, I just canceled it.
Well, the rain was the obstacle, right? Yeah. Anybody else? Any other obstacles getting here today? Anybody like get a flat tire or like hit any traffic? No? Somebody? No? So my 2 biggest beliefs are sacrifice and discipline can get you anywhere. So the reality is, if you want to succeed in anything that you do, you have to make a sacrifice. And some people that are in your life are going to have to understand that you're sacrificing your time with them, your communication with them. They're going to make a sacrifice to put their own wants and needs aside because they have your best interest in mind. So as you want to become better in anything that you do, you're going to have to sacrifice the things that don't make you better. And every decision that you make has to get you closer to where you want to be, not further away from where you want to be. So if you want to lose weight, you probably don't want to eat bad food, right? If you want to get stronger, you probably want to lift more weights than less weights, right? Now, you can't go out and say, I want to be the strongest person in the room, but not do anything to make yourself stronger. So once you commit to something, you have to have the discipline in order to follow through, right? And now everyone's going to be tugging at you. Your friends are going to want to pull you to parties. Your friends are going to want to, hey, let's go grab a drink, right? All those things that I did in college. I'm sure you guys do that too. But if you know where you want to be by a certain time frame, those things might hold you back. And if your friends aren't on the same page as you have to consider whether they're really your friends or not. Because a friend is going to help you get to where you want to go. They're not going to hold you back from where you want to go. So the number one thing you have to understand is you have to earn it, right? There are no handouts. If you're ever in a situation where somebody's looking to give you something, it's probably because they want something from you in return. And now they have control of you, or now you're dependent on them. But when you earn it, when you truly earn it yourself, nobody could take that from you. And this isn't in regards to money. It can be. This is more about everything else. Putting in the work, right? Doing what you have to do in order to succeed. Becoming an expert. The other thing is no days off. So I'm not telling you to work every single day or study every day, but you should do something every single day that makes you better. Every single day. Does anybody have an idea why I say every single day you should do something? Yes, sir.
Keep the momentum.
Bingo. Oh my God. Did you make this presentation?
I don't.
Momentum. And momentum is as real as it gets. So when a train's running down the tracks and the brakes come off, what happens to that train? Does it pick up speed or lose speed? No brakes, what happens? The train goes faster, right? Because it can't stop. Well, like anything, momentum is going to carry you forward. So when you take a day off, you broke all your momentum. When you say, hey, I'm not going to drink, anymore, and then you go 10 days and then you drink on the 11th day, you broke your momentum. Now you got to start all over again. And starting over again as you get older, Reed, I'm sure you could attest to this, as you start over, you stop. That wasn't an age thing, guys. That was an experience thing.
I'm a proud broken down.
When you have to keep starting over as you get older, it gets more tiring because you don't have the same energy to keep starting over. And that's the reality of it. So whatever you're doing, if you play basketball, you don't have to play and train 3 hours, 4 hours a day every day. But you know what? Go outside for 5 minutes, take 100 free throws, go back inside. At least you did something to where you wanted to be. Third is what very few people fail to do in life. And that's a 24/7 commitment to becoming an expert. Now, I was fortunate enough to fall into my career, and given the economic times and the challenges or obstacles or opportunities I was faced with early on, being in the New York City real estate and finance markets at 20 years old, I had no other way of succeeding or proving all the doubters wrong by committing myself to becoming an expert. I never wanted to get into real estate. I never wanted to get into mortgage financing. To be honest with you, still to this day, I don't like real estate, and I don't like real estate financing. I like people. And I also know that there's a need for experts in the space, especially during today's chaotic market and current economic conditions that we are facing. So I didn't pick and choose. This wasn't my dream, but I made it something bigger than what I ever wanted it to be. Does everybody understand that? So my purpose is helping people, educating people, and bringing class to an industry that doesn't really have a lot of it, okay? I don't know how much you guys know about 2008, and we'll get into 2008 later on. Was everyone, where were you guys in 2008? 5 years old, 6 years old, 10 years old?
7.
Has everybody or anybody learned about 2008? Yes? What were some things that happened in 2008?
The housing market crash.
Bingo. What else?
Recession.
What do they call that time frame, 2008? The Great Yep, we're coming up on 100 years of the Great Depression now. That's coming, that's true. Anybody else? Like banks, mortgages, real estate? You said basically the housing market collapsed, right? Yes, sir.
The banks were saved from defaulting.
Yep. Do you know who bailed out the banks?
Federal government.
Do you know where the federal government got the money from to do that? This is true. You might not have it. I know Reed probably knows this.
Yeah, something similar to the Treasury. I forget what it's called.
So part of it, so actually believe it or not, and the word on Wall Street was the drug cartels actually deposited cash, because who has more cash than anybody, if you guys know anything about like drug cartels? If you don't, stay in the lane. If you do. So apparently the drug cartels struck a deal with the United States government to bail the United States government out because they needed a cash infusion and they could not print the money fast enough that they dumped all the cash into the economic system so the economic system didn't collapse. I wasn't there, I didn't see the transfer, but apparently that's really what happened, okay? So everything that you guys have heard in the books that you probably read might be true, might not be true. I can only tell you what I know being close to the industry. So did everybody think they were going to be coming here today to be told to get a paying job? Does everybody have a paying job here? Does anybody work? You work? You guys all work? Do you guys all get paid? Hopefully? Yeah. So I don't know if you guys know this, but if you guys want to succeed in life, you have to have cash flow. And if you want freedom to do what you want to do, you have to have more cash flow, right? Unless you want to like not and like live off the land. I guess you could do that too. But in order to do what you want to do, you have to have money coming in, right? Everything costs money. Your cell phone, your clothes, your food, where you sleep at night, right? So I think you guys want to learn about like house hacking maybe, like living for free. Is that something you guys want to learn about or no? Do you guys want to like learn how to make money in real estate? Yeah? So here's an idea that we came up with to just show you guys an option. Now, I'm not telling you guys what to do. I'm showing this as an example of what I would recommend you guys to do if I was sitting in your guys' seat knowing what I know. And this like starts today. Like you guys better be flooding the job application market like today, even while you're sitting here. Because here's how you're going to buy your first house. Does anybody here own a house yet? A couple people? Wow, it's impressive. Love it. So this is just an example. Don't hold me to it. But if you make $50,000 a year, you're making $4,166 a month. That qualifies you automatically based on federal lending guidelines to get a mortgage payment of $1,666. So now, I'm not telling you how to find real estate because I don't know this market that well yet, but I'm sure somebody in this room can guide you in the right direction. Based on today's current interest rates, that's probably going to be somewhere between a $150,000 house or condo to a $200,000 house or condo. Does everybody know what like a house and a condo is? Does anybody not know what that is? No? So here's what I would come up with. Come up with a couple dollars, start working immediately, contribute to the 401k if they allow that because you're able to save money tax-free. So this year I believe you can contribute $23,000 of your income tax-free into your 401k. So that means that if you guys don't need money monthly to live because hopefully you're getting a scholarship or your parents are helping you out or you're not really burdened with expenses right now, you can get a $50,000 job and at $41.66 a month that you'll be making, if you save 5 months of money, you'll have $20,000 saved up and paid $0 in taxes. Did anybody ever hear their parents talk about how much money they pay in taxes? Did anyone ever look at a paycheck where like, wow, I made $1, but they took 40 cents out of it or 30 cents out of it? Yeah? Well, everybody here today is getting the best knowledge that I have. The goal in life is not to pay taxes. People buy real estate to not pay taxes. It's just the reality of it. That's why real estate exists. That's why tax law changes and exists every single year. So if you guys are sitting here today, I believe each one of you at some point, might not be today, might be 3 months from now, a year from now, can find a job or be qualified for a job to make $50,000 a year. Would everybody agree with that? Does anybody think they're not worth $50,000 a year? Come on, guys. You're not worth it? That's good. At least. Does anybody think that they're worth at least $50,000 a year? Excellent. So while you're in school and you don't have a lot of monthly expenses, why not get a job, work your ass off to save $20,000? And look, you don't have to save all that per month. You could save $2,000 a month in the 401k, and the rest of the money you can live off of. But by the time you hit April of next year, you have a job history, you have money saved, you could buy your first house. Each one of you sitting in this room today, as long as you're 18 years old, if you get a full-time job today, can buy your house in 60 to 90 days, depending on how much money you save up. Did anybody know that coming into here today? Did anybody know that you guys, at your current age, can get a home? You knew that? Yeah? Where'd you guys learn that before? Who told you that? Somebody say social media? Yeah. TikTok lies, man. They have all bad stuff, I'm telling you. So everybody should be looking to buy a multi-bedroom property because then you can rent out the bedrooms. So if you're able to find a house or a condo that has 3 bedrooms and you can rent out 2 of them for $700 each or $600 each, because you guys have to live somewhere, people have to live somewhere, you can essentially live for $200 or $300 a month. So now that gives you the ability, if you wanted to, you could leave your job. Because I'm pretty sure a lot of people in here want to be entrepreneurs, start your own businesses, right? Well, the only way you could do that is if you don't have overhead or expenses. Because if you have expenses, you have to have a job, right? Because you have to pay your bills. So you could rent out each bedroom, there's a garage if there's a garage, the driveway, to cover all living expenses. And the key is to live for free in your own home. So if you can get a 4-bedroom, even better. If you can get a 5-bedroom house or you get 2 people to live in 1 bedroom, you guys can figure out the economics of it. But this is something I want you guys to take very serious because if you're buying a house 20, 21, 22, 23 years old, you're ahead of 99.9% of people your age. And they just don't know how to do this. They're not willing to sacrifice or commit to doing this. So over the last decade, more people were lucky than smart. And 2020 and 2021 were fake markets. 100% fake. 100% man-made. 100% inflated. $5 trillion was given out to a lot of people. $3.5 trillion were given directly to businesses to keep people employed without having to work, because a lot of people worked virtually. If you guys have heard about that. And $1.5 trillion of that $3.5 trillion were given to individuals. So this is all free money. It should have never existed. So when people get free money, what do they usually do? Like if someone gives you $50 unexpectedly, are you going to put that $50 in your pocket in the bank, or are you going to go spend it? Spend it, right? We're humans. We all have human tendencies. That's just natural human behavior that happens. So every market out there that exists is overinflated because of this capital infusion, this $5 trillion that was pumped into our markets. Okay? Combine that with near 0% interest rates, so more free money. They gave out $5 trillion, and then you could borrow $15 trillion at 1%. Everyone said, let's buy everything. Now, there's no more money being printed as of today. There's no more money being given out for free. Interest rates went from 0% to now around 8%. Here's what everyone did. They bought their vacation home, they bought their boat, they bought their dream car. They were just spending money because they were given the money, including real estate investing. Everyone wanted to become a real estate investor because real estate prices either doubled or tripled. You could have bought a house for $300,000, and in 2.5 years, that same house could be worth $500,000. That's not being smart, it's being lucky. Because if the government didn't print all this money, my forecast was in 2020, we were going to see a major downturn in the real estate market, major job losses, which creates more defaults, which allows real estate prices to go down significantly, right? So are we reliving 2008? I can't tell you that because there's more money now than ever in people's personal pockets. Back in 2008, nobody had money. if you Google the amount of millionaires in 2008 versus today, the number has to be astronomically higher. The market's been on the hottest run, the largest profitability in the history of America, the longest time in the history of America. So while you guys were in first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, and so on and so forth, America's been having one big party. Financial markets are up, real estate's up and rebounded higher than 2007 and 2008 levels. So you're probably thinking like, how are we in a good position then? You just said that job losses are going to happen, interest rates are high. Well, here's why. You guys can only go up from here. Right now, you guys are here. Everyone is at a level playing field right now, right? You're at ground level. So if you make $10, that's $10 more than you have. And as long as you don't have $10 in expenses that you have to pay out immediately, you just put your net worth at $10 higher. If you make $1,000, you just became $1,000 richer. Does everybody understand that concept? Does anybody disagree with that concept? Nobody? Guys, don't tell me what I want to hear. I want somebody to give me a hard time. Somebody? No? Yes, you got, please. That's a good question. Student loans, I call student loans a ticking time bomb, right? Does everybody understand like what a ticking time bomb is? Because now you're facing, I'm assuming most people have student loans that are deferred. Am I right with that? Or are you actively paying? Like, I don't know. Everyone has a unique situation. I don't know if you want to like share yours, but I look at student loans as an opportunity to give somebody access to getting an education, right? So when you look at your student loan documents or papers, you look at, okay, by this date, I need to start paying $300 a month. Ballpark, right? $400 a month, whatever that number is. So why don't you look to buy, how you guys doing? If you guys buy a property like we spoke about earlier, and you're making $400 a month in rental income, buy a property to have your tenants end up paying for your student loans. Does that make sense? Like we spoke, yes.
I have a follow-up question.
Yes.
So, like, I check my credit score like really often, and I know that in terms of like how much money you owe in total, my student loan was like a part of it, which make it like a lot. And how would I mean? I know you said that the credit score doesn't really matter.
So the credit score does matter, but yeah. Go ahead.
But yeah, it's really affecting the credit score, and if it matters, then it's gonna make it really good.
So the financial anxiety like does exist, right? Like when you're like, oh my God, I have this bill and my credit score is dropping. Like my first piece of advice to you is don't look at your credit score often. Believe it or not, right? Because if you're looking at your credit score often, you're just creating more like pain for yourself. Does that make sense or no? Right? You probably look at it and you're like, damn it dropped again. Like I didn't do anything, right? Am I right when you like have that feeling? And it sucks. So if you know that's the case, don't look at it. But if you know that's the reality, that you have student loans, what are we putting into place to help get those student loans eliminated? Is that an immediate job, right? Is that taking a part-time job? Is it learning more about credit scores? Just so everybody knows, credit scores are really not accurate. It's just a way for Wall Street to make money. Does everybody know what Wall Street is? Has anybody been to Wall Street in New York City? Oh my God, we got to do a field trip, I think. You been to Wall Street? Yeah? What'd you think of it?
Cool.
Did you see the big bull? Yeah. Did you take a picture with it?
Not yet.
Oh my God, that's a must. So Wall Street has credit scores, so banks can buy your debt and make money. Credit scores are not indicative of the person you are. I don't judge somebody on being a good person by their credit score. I judge somebody on being a good person by how you treat people, how hard you work, right? Those things. People look at credit scores like, oh my God, I have a bad credit score, I'm a bad person. That's not true. Despite everything that you guys have probably learned, credit scores are manipulated in order to access borrowing. So right now, in the cycle of the market that we're at, credit agencies, credit reporting agencies are looking at different factors to look for a reason to deny you for more credit or give you a higher interest rate. And they say, how old are you? Am I asking?
22.
22? They're like, oh, this 22-year-old female just applied for credit. If she's at a 700 score, she gets an 8% rate. But if she's at a 680 credit score, oh, we can charge her 15%. Does that make sense? So it's unfortunate, and I've always disagreed with the credit scoring model since I was 20 years old when I got into this lovely business, because it's a broken system. But if you understand that, you can stop putting so much pressure on yourself to monitoring your credit score. Now, there is good debt out there. If you borrow money, you have to have a plan for what you do with that money. If you take out student loans, it's to go to school. If you take out a mortgage, which is debt, it's to buy a property, right? If you take out a car loan, it's to buy a car. The key is to not have debt, or if you have debt, understand something other than yourself paying back that debt. That's why real estate is so big. If you buy this place that we spoke about earlier on the previous slide, just to show you guys this again, let's just say you have 3 bedrooms and you rent it out for $2,100 a month, and your mortgage payment is only $1,666, you're now making $434 a month. You take that $434 a month and use that money to pay back your $400 a month in student loans. Does that make sense to everybody? Does anybody think that they can execute on this plan? No? Yes. You think you can? How old are you?
21.
How long before you do this? For the first year while I'm finishing up school, rent it out to a couple of my friends. Then you say, you know what? I'm going to move out, maybe buy a new place, maybe move back in with your parents or your family, whoever you want to do that with. But now you're still bringing in $400 a month where, hey, you know what? I need a car. Let me go get a car that has a $400 a month payment. Now my real estate is paying for me to have a car, rather than you having to work, right, a paycheck to pay taxes to pay for your car. So if you use real estate strategically, you can have that real estate pay your other bills that normally you'd have to work for, and now you don't have to put that much pressure on yourself to make the same amount of money on a job. Does everybody comprehend that? Is that good? Does anybody have any questions on that? Yes?
So at the end, the point is not really about making money out of it. It's more like not spend money on it.
Everyone's different, right? It's kind of hard giving I could give macro advice and tell everyone what works. Every single person's faced with a different scenario. Some have student loans, right? Some don't have student loans. Some have more student loans than other. It really depends on what your goal is. It really depends on where you want to be by the time you're 25, 30, 35. The sooner you buy real estate, the sooner you could become a millionaire if that's what your goal is. Because every time you make a monthly payment, you're paying your debt, you're paying the mortgage down, and if you can get other people that are living in your property to pay your debt for you, 30 years from now, by the time you guys are in your 50s, you'll own a piece of real estate that has no debt on it, and now you'll be making $2,100 per month, plus. So this is just one vehicle to earn off of, right? If you guys want to talk one-on-one, we're happy to do that and navigate where you guys want to go from here. But this is just a clear example of how you guys can use real estate to get out of debt, student loan debt in particular. Now, if you guys don't have overhead, you guys don't have pressure, you don't have stress. If you're fortunate enough not to have student loans, less pressure to have to earn. But that's why you guys are lucky. If all you have is student loan debt, consider yourself lucky. And the sooner you realize when that first student loan payment becomes due, the more you can plan now, so when it comes due, you already know how it's getting paid for. Third thing is, you're starting in the new market with new rules and new market conditions. So you have no bad habits. You didn't not buy a house in 2020 and watch everyone else get rich, right? You're starting today when everyone else has morale that is going lower. Oh, I should have bought a house when rates were at 3%. Now they're at 8%. Oh, I should have sold my house for $1 million. Now I only can sell my house for $900,000. So you guys are starting, like I said, here. You only got one way to go, and that's up. You missed the inflated run of FOMO. So that's why you guys are fortunate. What you're learning today, your parents probably don't know and haven't heard. Is anybody's parents in real estate? Does anyone's parents own their home? Yeah? Do you guys hear them talking about mortgages or taxes at all often? Yeah? So when you go home, I'm gonna give you guys a little homework. If your parents own your house, ask them what their current mortgage rate is. I guarantee it's probably 2, 3, or 4%. And that's the reality of it. So what you're learning today, hopefully you'll be able to take something and go home and tell your parents what you learned and how you could help them. Because there are people that are 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years old that don't know any of this, right? All they know is interest rates are high. They don't have a game plan for what's next. So I know everyone came today because the title of the course was like how to become a millionaire in real estate. And I hope you guys all remember I said like I didn't like real estate and I didn't like mortgages, but that's the career path that I was on. From the day I got into the business, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do in life. So I used real estate and mortgages to allow myself to try different business ventures, meet new people, have different partnerships. So I've done everything inside of real estate and mortgage financing by 30. And I stopped when I was 30. Took like 6 months off, tried to figure out a new market, a new endeavor, a new career. So in 2008, so I got cut from my college football team in April of 2008. So you guys can write all this down and fact check it if you want. Bear Stearns was one of the biggest banks on Wall Street, went out of business. Lehman Brothers, have anybody heard of Lehman Brothers? Anybody? Yeah, you have? Look up Lehman Brothers. The day Lehman Brothers closed down, me and my best friend, who's now a private banker at JP Morgan Chase, sat on the opposite side of the street in Manhattan and watched every parent, brother, sister, father, mother walk out of Lehman Brothers with boxes and their belongings in their hand because they got fired that day. They showed up for work that day and their company was closed. And I'm like, what the heck caused this? I'm a 20-year-old kid watching one of the biggest firms in the country, in the world, shut down. It was all over the headlines. So I'm like, all right, I'm still going to stick to this mortgage business. It sounds like pretty fun and interesting. And I was working 7 days a week, 12 to 15-hour days, all on commission. That's nothing you guys should know. I've never had a guaranteed paycheck, still to this day, in my entire life. Every dollar I ever made was 100% earned as commission. 100%. So what I'm sharing with you, hopefully will either inspire you to go down the same route and work your ass off, or say, you know what, that's not for me. Let me become a 9-to-5 W-2 employee. You can still live a great life. You can still become a millionaire without those obstacles, right? However, in September of 2008, I made $14,000 in 1 month. I'm like, oh my God, I'm 21 years old. I just made $14,000. I closed 3 deals. Then I'm like, if I close 15 deals, man, I can make like 100 grand in a month. That's not hard to do. I just closed 3. How hard could it be to close 15? So that year I wound up making $38,000. It's like very close to minimum wage, right? Now, I'm working probably 70, 80-hour weeks with no guaranteed paycheck, running around New York City, not hanging out with my friends, not seeing my parents, not seeing my little brother, because I was on a pursuit to prove people wrong that I could do this business after my football career ended. Does that make sense? So everyone knew me as a football player. Everyone knew where I wanted to go. Then I had to go to my hometown. Hey, how's football going? Oh, I got cut. I was so tired of hearing like, hey, how's football going? I'm like, you know what? I'm just not going to go home. I'm not going to talk to anybody I know. I changed my phone number. They couldn't ask me. They couldn't text me, right? And all I did was work because I needed to reinvent myself. And if I wanted to reinvent myself, I needed to put in the same work and get the same type of clout or admiration that they had for me for playing football. Because everyone had big aspirations for me, including my parents, right? So now 2009 comes. I made $120,000 by June of 2009. That means through May. So if you take $120,000, divide that by 5 months, I was making about $25,000 a month at 22 years old. No experience. Everyone was 25 to 30 years older than me. It was the worst economic conditions in the history of America. Real estate had just dropped 40 to 60% in value. No one had jobs. You're like, how the hell did you make $25,000 a month at 22? Because I didn't go home at night until I had a new deal, until I had a new relationship, until I had a new lead. I would not go home. Some days I didn't go home until midnight. Some days I didn't go home until 8 p.m. And I would drive 120 miles per day, every day, hunting for deals. So while everyone else was maybe making $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month, I'm this 22-year-old kid who has less than a year of experience kicking their ass, solely based on hard work. So notice I said when I was 22. Most people in this room are close to 22 years old. If I did it, you guys could do it. I dropped out of school. I never graduated college because I was like, why am I going to pay for tuition? I'm not playing football, and I'm making $20,000 a month. This doesn't make sense to me. Why am I going to pay to go to school when I'm making more than I can? There's no jobs in the market. Even if I graduate right now, I'll get a job for $60,000. I can make that in 3 months. I can go do 10 more deals. Now, by June 15th, I had quit the mortgage business. I stopped. I turned my phone off, and I moved to Pennsylvania. Has anyone here ever been to Pennsylvania? You have? Where about? You're from Philly? Philly girl? You an Eagles fan? All right. Anybody else? Philly? Yeah? You been? So I moved from New York City to Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. Has anybody ever been to, hopefully not, has anybody been to Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania? Whole different ball game. You're like, well, why'd you stop? Because I still had it in my heart that I wanted to play football. And I made so much money that I'm like, if I keep doing this, I'm going to die by the time I'm 25. So I don't want to die by the time I'm 25 because of the stress and pressure. Let me go and try and play football again. Move out to Pennsylvania. No one can get a hold of me. I tore my shoulder on like week 3. I played D3 ball. I went from 1AA to D3. And then I had to go home to my mother's house. And I don't know if you guys know this. When you guys leave your parents' house, the last thing you ever want to do is be forced to go back to your parents' house, right? I'm like, Ma, I make more money than you. You're not going to tell me what to do anymore, right? But it was her house. So I said, how am I going to get out of this house? I was like, God, please send me a way to get out of this house. So a friend of mine emailed me and said, hey, I have this mortgage. I need you to come close for me. I need the money. I'm going to make $25,000, and you're the only person that I know that can close this deal. I'm like, I'm out of the mortgage business. I told you, don't send me any more deals. I will never come back to the Bronx other than going to a Yankee game. And I think my mom yelled at me for sleeping too late, and I'm like, actually, you know what? I'll take a ride to the Bronx. I have to get out of this house. Drove to the Bronx, took the application for the client, closed the deal the day before Christmas for this family that worked their ass off to buy their first home in December of 2009. My buddy made $25,000. I made $5,000, whatever it was. And I said, you know what? This business needs me. I need this business. And what the hell else am I going to do? I can't go back to my mother's house. So I moved to the Bronx. I did buy a property eventually, but I wound up renting a past client's basement out for $600 a month. And I said, you know what? Now it's time to become an adult. Because again, I'm not going back to my mother's house ever again. So on the bottom here, it says, in December, I bought my first Liberty Tax franchise. I had a partner at the time that I was getting a lot of mortgage business from that had a tax practice that ran out of money. And I had about $65,000 saved up from the money I made. And I gave him $65,000 so he can keep his business afloat. He had 2 young kids at home, and we opened up a Liberty Tax franchise. So that was my first business at 22. I put my entire life savings, every penny I had, in someone else's hands because he always looked out for me and he was always good to me. 2010, yes.
What was the cost to start that franchise?
It was about $66,000, and I gave up $65,000. Yeah, it was a lot. So we opened up an office, we opened up a storefront, we bought furniture, TVs, we had employees. I'll never forget, it was tax usually starts January 15th. January 14th, our payroll was $7,000. I'm like, Jesus, I hope this ends soon, right? But I had committed to it. So I threw myself into the fire because I wanted to give myself no out. I'm the type of person, if I have an out, I'm going to take it. So the only way I will not leave something is if I'm invested into it. So I knew by making this investment into this, I needed to see this through. So in 2010, I closed 82 deals from different referral sources, meaning there were 82 different humans that trusted me at 23 years old now with their mortgage. And I made $180,000. I woke up at 5 every day. I tried going to sleep by midnight, but because my brain was so active and I was so worried and fearful, like, how the hell am I going to do this? I probably went to bed at like 4:30 in the morning. Reed, I know you know that feeling of sleepless nights. Hopefully you don't have any more of those. But I put so much pressure on myself that I couldn't even keep up. I was fortunate enough to have a partner who was 10 years older than me, but he really didn't have any money. So I was the one that was making money, that was funding all of our businesses, but he had the experience, and he took a big hit in 2007 and 2008 because he was invested in real estate and had other businesses. So I'm like, okay, you know what? Have a real estate, tax practice, let's call it. I'm running my mortgage business, and then I said, let me buy a piece of real estate. I just did $30 million in mortgages for other people that I make a lot more money than. I'm kind of a hypocrite if I don't buy my own piece of real estate, right? So I bought my first condo in April of 2010 when I was 23. So if anybody in this room is not 23 yet, I give you the challenge of buy your first piece of real estate before I bought mine at 23. Does anybody think they could do that? I hope you guys can, all right? And I'll be here every step of the way to help you guys do that if you haven't done it yet. So then I'm like, I really want to torture myself. In June, we bought our second Liberty Tax franchise. I didn't know how to read a franchise agreement. Does anybody know what a franchise is? Like McDonald's, Chipotle, right? Like there's franchises. Some are private, some are not. So the way our contract read, and again, all I did was put up the money. I wasn't the business person. I was a kid. My partner didn't read it. He said that if we opened up our first one on this side of the highway, somebody can buy the territory to the right side of the highway. Well, clearly he didn't read it. And all of our clients were coming from the right side of the highway. So if we didn't purchase it, all of our clients would go to someone else's business. So we almost had to buy it. So I'm like, all right, buy it. Here's another, $66,000 out the door. August comes around. He's like, hey, we should really start flipping properties. Now, meanwhile, I'm literally doing, 7 to 10 mortgages a month. At the time, that was very challenging. And working 15 to 16-hour days trying to find the business, right? So he's like, well, we have this franchise here. Why don't we buy this building? I'm like, all right, how much do we need? He's like, $70,000. So I'm like, all right, here's $70,000. So we bought a commercial building. I lived up top in the 2-bedroom. I put my mortgage bank downstairs, and I put our tax office in the front. I'm like, this is a great idea. I could live where I work. I could get up later. I could walk downstairs. I could run both of my businesses. I didn't take into account that people that knew I worked there knew I lived up top. People would be knocking on my door at 6 a.m. on a Saturday, like 5 o'clock on a Sunday. Like, hey, I need a mortgage. I'm like, dude, I live here, Like, what are you doing? So I lived there for about 18 months. In September, we bought our first flip property. So we bought a bank-owned property in the South Bronx, rough area. Got a great deal on it. I put no money into that because my partner structured a deal with an attorney who gave us $400,000 to do the deal at 18% interest. Is anybody good at math here? Can somebody do 400,000 times 18%? Can somebody answer that? 400,000 times 18%? What is it? 72? That's exactly right. Guess who was responsible for making those monthly payments? So I was paying $6,000 a month while we were renovating this property. Now look, I was making $15,000 to $20,000 a month. I could still do it, right? So I'm just making the payments, making the payments, making the payments. This is 2010. Now in October, my partner was like, hey, we should open up a real estate brokerage. I'm like, all right, that sounds good, I wasn't the guy to say no because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I'm like, okay. So we fly out to Denver, Colorado. We opened up our first real estate brokerage. We bought a RE/MAX franchise, another $50,000 out the door. So the whole concept was I have a real estate business, brokerage, I have an accounting company, and I do mortgages. So we could offer a one-stop shop to all of our network. We can make money on the mortgages, make money on the real estate, make money, obviously, on the accounting. I didn't know about payroll, managing. We had 15 employees, 20 real estate agents, and I was still doing 15 or so mortgages per month. My back was against the wall. Like, what else do? What do I just quit? I can't quit. Like, I have all my money invested in these endeavors. 2011, I made $550,000 on a W-2 just from mortgage business alone. Had a record year. I was told, there's no way you can close $20 million in business. I said, okay, not only am I going to close $20 million in business this year at 24, I'm going to close $30 million. They're like, there's no way you're doing 30 million. There's no way you're doing 30 million. I did 30 million. And I got the 30 million because I forced everybody, because when I was younger, I was a maniac. I closed 2 deals on New Year's Eve. I got home at 9 o'clock at night to close $31 million of business because going into December 31st of that year, I had a girlfriend at the time. I had $29.8 million of business closed. And if Reed's laughing back there because he knows that $29.8 million is not $30 million. You know what I'm talking about? If I fell $200,000 short of my goal, I would have jumped off the bridge. Like literally, I would have not been able to live with myself. I could have been suicidal, like all jokes aside. Because I worked my ass off for that. And I had attorneys that were like, oh, just do it on the first. I'm like, no, listen, you can do it on the first, but if you do it on the first, you're never getting business from me again because this means something to me. I was told I can't do 20 million. I'm about to hit 30 million. But that's a mentality. I came home that night. Keely helped me make this presentation. Girlfriend not happy is like the nicest way of putting it. Let's just say I didn't see the ball drop that year. Okay? But that's what it took. So if you add that math up, I made $1 million by 25. And I said, I will never do this ever again. Because what I had to sacrifice, relationships, events, personal well-being, health, I will never do this again. I'll make that type of money again, but I got to find a better way to do this because now I'm going to die by the time I'm 30. So I kind of worked part-time in 2012. Now I'm still only 25 years old. I made like $300,000. It was still great, but I picked and choose who I worked with because I'm like, you don't appreciate my business anyway. It's not really worth me having to keep going out here to do this. And plus, if you make that kind of money, you're paying probably half of it in taxes, right? So that's how I made $1 million, by being relentless, sacrificing everything under the sun from 20 to 25. But that was the foundation to my career, where still to this day, hundreds of people call me because of what I did from 2008 to 2013. So I'm not telling you to sacrifice your whole life. I'm telling you to sacrifice the next 5 years of your life to set the foundation to do whatever you want to do moving forward in your life. Because once you have that contact list, once you prove yourself, everyone knows who you are. So what advice would I give somebody that's 18 to 24 years old? Is anybody older than 24 in here? I'm trying not to look in the back right. Is anybody under 18 in here? No? Good. So the first one is choose your friends wisely. Can anybody elaborate on that? Like what you think that means? Does anybody, yes?
Always pick people to be around with that are better than you in some way.
That's good. I like that. Anybody else? I want like 10 answers too.
The 5 closest people to you is like the
That's 100% true. Got something for me? No, anybody? Yes.
Encourage you or push you to reach your goal.
Yep. Amazing. I think that's like 5 or 6. Anybody else? Can I get like 3 or 4 more? I can hear from this side of the room. Anybody from this side of the room? Yes. Love it. One more.
Pressure you to go out.
Say it again.
Don't pressure you to go out.
100% right. And that was something I faced early on, right? Again, I was making so much money that even when like one of my friends would convince me to go out, I'd wind up paying the bill. We'd like be out in New York City, like $1,000 bill. The bill comes and they're like, yeah, we don't have a job. I'm like, you invited me out, right? Not only did you not pay for me, I had to pay the bill, right? So you have to understand, like, it's okay to have friends. If you have to run whenever you want, go ahead.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Can I get a card?
I don't have a car. I can give you
Oh,
everything
okay.
else. Yeah, you got it. So what I'll tell you is, as far as friends go, like where you are today, it's okay to have friends doing things with. Once you realize where you want to go, people are going to try and hold you back for their own needs. They're going to miss the old you. They're going to say, oh, we used to go out every Thursday night. Well, you know what? They might have a 9-to-5 job. You might be working on your new business, or you might have a goal in mind that they don't have. So it's super important to communicate your goals and where you want to go with people that you're closest to, including your family. I can't tell you how many people I know that their own family holds them back. I can't tell you how many friends I have that are like, my dad wanted me to be a doctor, and I want to sell drugs, right? Hey, my mother wants me to be a soccer player, and I hate soccer. I want to play basketball. And that's just the reality of it, right? So like we are taught to love and admire and trust our family because they have our best interest in mind. Well, I'm a father and I have a son who's 5, and yeah, I have a little bit of influence over my 5-year-old son. Luckily, he loves football and he's already better than I ever was, but I don't push him towards that. I expose him to everything and I let him be who he is. I can't make a decision in my son's best interest other than keeping him out of harm's way. So when you go home and tell your parents, like, hey, I want to go buy my first home, and they've never bought a home because maybe they're fearful, maybe they don't have the resources, they're going to say to you, why do you want to do that? Just keep renting. What do you mean? Why are you going to take that risk? Like, we're taught in life to not take risks. And based on what you've heard today so far, I've taken a lot of risk. But if I didn't do everything I did, I wouldn't be standing here today to share that story with you. Now, do I think you guys should take the same amount of risk and sacrifice that I did? Absolutely not. No way. But one of you, 2 of you, 3 of you may just take that amount of risk or more because that's inside of you. Yes, sir?
Sorry to cut you off.
I love being, tell me, what do you got?
Knowing how much it took mentally, and you saying that you knew you were going to die by the time you were 30.
Yeah.
Would you do it again?
I wouldn't change anything about my past because, first of all, I don't live with regret. I live with like some resentment for sure. But as far as regret goes, if football didn't end the way it did, I would have never done what I did, right? Like I wouldn't be an expert today. So I would put where I'm positioned today in the real estate and financing world as an expert up against anybody in the world based on what I know myself, right? Because people that do what I do are 50, 60, 70, 80 years old. I'm 36. So I wouldn't recommend anybody doing what I did, or what I would tell you is if you want to do or follow my path, I would create more healthy hobbies. Meditation, acupuncture, stuff like that. Not going out and drinking until 4 a.m. with your friends that really weren't your friends, right? Because if you want to go somewhere, you need to have things that give you ease to go there. Every time you go out and drink with your friends and get banged up, which I'm sure everyone in this room probably has done to some point, you're breaking that momentum. And it's not getting you to where you wanted to be, right? And like those are the reality of life. Now, coming from a football background of waking up at 5 a.m., getting run into the ground to then only have to lift heavy weights and then getting yelled at like an animal, right? Like that to me was work. Using your brain, it's a different kind of work. Like physically, I could do anything. It's that mental training that you have to put yourself through. Like getting up early. Yeah, it's hard to get up early, right? Yeah, it's hard showing up to class. Yeah, it's hard being on time. It's hard studying for exams, right? We've all lived that. But that's like the mental strength that you need in order to succeed in the world, because the world is hard. The world is not easy. You know, the world is not fuzzy and warm. The world is going to try and break you. And depending on what you do, the more risk you take, the quicker it could break you. So like, what are you doing to train your mind to become stronger, right? Every time you're faced with that obstacle or hurdle or adversity and you make it through to the other side, like you complete that checkbox. In certain things that you don't know, it's good to like hear advice. Like today, like hopefully this is like a mentorship concept or program for you guys, but I can't prevent you guys from making mistakes. I'm not with you guys 24/7. But what I would recommend you guys doing at some point, spend some time with Keely in the back, because Keely just went through my boot camp for 100 days. And she survived. She's back here in Texas. She might not come ever back to New York because I put her through hell, but that's what she wanted. Does that make sense? So the more time I spend with you one-on-one, the more I can be your mentor. But if I don't know your story and I don't see your every move, it's hard for me to fully navigate you in the appropriate direction. Does that help answer your question? Yeah, sir.
This is like kind of off topic, but would the amount that you said I made and the number, is that before or after taxes?
Before taxes, yeah. Yep. Good question. But then when you own real estate, talk to an accountant. When you own real estate, there's tax depreciation, again, 401k, IRA. There's ways to save that and not pay taxes to save more of your paycheck or earnings. Any other questions before we get on? Yes.
Sorry.
Keep going. Don't be sorry. I love questions.
So what was your competitive edge against people who are your senior? Because obviously you're coming in as a college student. Didn't people who are getting mortgages, who are college grads and older, et cetera, looking at you and saying okay, well, what do you know about mortgage?
If you give me 3 minutes, that's the next slide.
Okay, perfect.
She's good, this one. We gotta get her a promotion or something. Internship, whatever, So the next one is make people you aspire to be like a lot of money. In my mind, every single person's full of crap. They're out for their own best interest, right? However, if somebody's serious and you aspire to be like them, figure out how you could benefit them, make them money, because if you're in business to make money. The more money you have, the more resources you have to go back and make an impact. 3, meditate. Everybody should be meditating today. I don't care what you do, how you do it, go to YouTube, meditate for 5 minutes in the morning, at night, start on that path now. 4, don't consume useless information. Get off TikTok, get off all that crap. Don't put crap into your brain because that's taking up space and preventing you from where you want to go. 10 ways to stand out when you're younger. Everybody better have their phone out and take a picture of this slide if you want to get somewhere in life, because these 10 are the most important 10 things you will ever need to know at your age. I was 20 years old. Yes, I had a cheap suit. Yes, I had a personality. Yes, I had the desire to work. But what I didn't have was experience, relationship, contacts, and what I wasn't was old enough, right? Those are all facts. So the way you stand out or offset these either facts or insecurities are, number 1, don't speak just to speak, speak with a purpose. 2, act like you belong. I don't care if you're sitting with Bill Gates or a homeless person, know your room, know your audience. Pretend like you'd be there. Act like you'd be there. Carry yourself how they carry themselves. 4, respond immediately with accurate information. People are too slow in responding. If I send you a text message asking you a question that's important, respond quickly. If I email you, respond quickly. Keep your word. If you say something, make sure you do it. Number 6 is the most probably important one. Be reliable. If you're reliable, people are going to like you. They're going to have to come to you. 7, demand and command respect. Be a gentleman. Be first class. Because that stands out in today's world. And then number 8, have an unwavering confidence in yourself. You might know nothing, but if you know in your mind that you're trying to know something, yeah, I belong here. I don't know anything, but I know I belong here. Might not be ready to perform today, but I will be at some point. You have to have that confidence. And if you don't have that confidence, it's going to show, and you're going to show cracks. 9, get up while it's still dark out. I'm not telling you to do this every day, but get up before everybody, because that way, by the time they get up, your brain's already processing at a faster speed, which will automatically put you ahead of them. And the last one, always be early. Never be late. And I learned that in sports. If you were late to sports, you're getting run into the ground. And I hate running still to this day, and I hated running then. So make sure you're early to everywhere you go, and people respect that and admire that. So reverifi is our tech company. This is like the DNA of reverifi. Be complete. Don't be 60%, 80%. Be 100%. Always look to get better and be the best version of yourself. The biggest mistake a lot of people make. You have a question?
Yeah, so just about the stuff you just covered, it seems like you had a very restless, when you were in the 20s.
Restless is a good word. Yeah.
Family and all that.
Yeah.
How would you say it changed? Would you say you still have that same mentality, or would you say it's evolved?
So I broke my ankle and had plates and screws in 2018 put in 2 weeks before my son was born. So I would say having my son changed my entire life. It put a lot of things into perspective. I'm big on being present. When I'm somewhere, I'm there. I'm not here thinking about New York City or about who's calling me or how many emails I have to reply to. I think you have to go through that storm in order to be able to delegate, right? But you can't be perfect at anything until you know A to Z on something. So now I've really learned how to delegate, and I'd put my networker corner up against any other 36-year-old probably in the country, because those are my people. Yeah.
What you just said is something I struggle with a lot. So how, being so restless, needing to do so much, how do you manage and get yourself to be in the moment?
Meditating and acupuncture really help. Like when there are needles all over your body and you're like, if I move, this is really going to hurt. It helps you really like get deep into your body and be present, truthfully. Meditating because you clear your mind, and not consuming like toxic crap, right? Like I don't watch anything other than sports that keeps me active and like keeps me, sports have always been my escape. That's why I got to the level I did, because it was an escape from a chaotic home life. I guess I'm gonna ask you a question. If you want to be vulnerable, feel free to answer it. Who puts pressure on you, your mother or your father? Address that relationship. And your father might be putting pressure on you because he wants more out of you, or he may resent you for giving you a life that he never had. And I don't know your father, right? So your father's putting pressure on you because he wants to be the best you. You don't have to fill like his void. Does that make sense? Like the sooner you address that relationship and understand that your dad's gonna be proud of you regardless of what you do in life, because I'm a father, I can tell you that, and he's just being hard on you, go back to like his upbringing and how he was raised, and there might be some clarity there for you. That. But listen, external pressure is very real, especially coming from parents. So if you guys can figure out, I would say like put headphones on, turn your music up louder. Don't feel like you have to like do anything for anybody else, because you'll be 30 years old and following a path that you did something for somebody else, and then you're gonna be even more upset. Hopefully that helped a little bit. Any more questions than that? Does anybody else? Yes.
With your experience, especially in mortgages during a recession, what is your best advice, or like any tips that you have for, obviously most of us haven't had that mortgage experience, especially when it comes to buying a house and then leasing it out to friends or acquaintances?
That's going to be a long answer, but what we are going to be doing for everybody that came today, we are going to be giving every single person at least a complimentary, like one-on-one 15 to 20 minute call to help you guys like hone in on your goals and ask all the questions you guys want. And you could talk to Kelly, we'll get that scheduled. And then we're actually going to be putting together like a Own Houston initiative where our goal is to help each one of you not only get a job or an internship, save money and buy your first property. So like you have my full commitment today that we will navigate you fully on that course. But that's more of an intimate one-on-one scenario, because everyone has their own story and history and past and kind of complex situation. So we will be helping you with that one-on-one. Anybody else? Before we get in, we're almost done, I promise. I'm not, you know the answer to that. Let somebody who doesn't know ask a question. Does anybody else have that same question? Because if you do, I'll answer. Oh my God, all you guys have that? So before COVID was a thing, in March of 2020, I founded a company that stands for Real Estate and Financial Verification. I thought COVID was going to last for 30 days, and COVID kind of still lasts, right? People still talk about COVID today. It's my second technology startup. There will be opportunities for all of you to get involved in that. But back to the DNA of reverifi, it's more my DNA, but what I built my company around, and that was the ability to be complete, as we touched on, and also the ability to be self-sufficient. If you could hunt and you can kill, you could eat, right? If you can't hunt, you can't kill, you can't eat. And in business, if you own a business or you want to be an entrepreneur, those three things are required to be an entrepreneur. You don't have to be great at all of them, but you have to be able to do it. There's always going to be somebody better at you than hunting and killing, and there's probably a lot of people that are better at you at eating, especially up in New York where everyone eats crazy, right? But the key is to repeat it. That's how you succeed. You can do something once, but you got to be able to do it over and over and over and over again. So reverifi has different umbrellas. Reverifi has its own private lending arm. Reverifi has the next big trade in real estate, and reverifi has its own media agency. So if any one of these, real estate financing or real estate, or again, the next big trade, or any type of media interest any of you, reach out to Keely or us directly, and we're happy to like give you guys an opportunity to work alongside of us or earn or just help grow the platform. Now, I know we're going to be doing a Q&A. I know we probably are close to running over time. I don't know what time it is, but I know people have questions about 2008. I don't think we're heading down the same collapse of 2008 So you can let you guys' parents know that it's not going to be that again. However, commercial real estate is going to be a big problem. I think the commercial real estate collapse is going to be 100 times greater than what we saw in 2008. And we don't know how far down that goes. Current market insights and predictions. Kaylee, we have a typo here. Guys, I don't know what that word is. Can anyone define this word? I never heard this word before. So my predictions are this. What you choose to do will be where you want to go. The number one way to make money is in a down market, is in a market full of fear, because fear creates inaction and inactivity. So the fact that none of you really have true real estate experience, and you're starting at the most recent worst time because of people's sentiment, it's actually the best time. And if you take this time to invest in real estate, she's good, that's why I keep her around, guys. You know, I couldn't, if you paid me to figure out how to do that, I wouldn't know how to do that. But you guys have to have the belief in yourself. I'm the type of person, like I said earlier, I'm going to control my destiny and fate. You might make a bad investment today. You can make the best investment tomorrow. The best way you learn is by making bad investments, because you learn to not do that again, or you learn what lane you belong in. So how to find deals? I'll give you the best way to find deals. Get in your car, drive around neighborhoods, and whoever hasn't done their landscaping, or like have high bushes or have uncut grass, they're probably not paying their mortgage. Has anyone ever like seen a house where like the grass is like super high and you're like, what the hell is that? Like what? They need like a lawnmower. Well, usually people who run out of money or go through a divorce or have a death, unfortunately, stop taking care of the property. So if you want to go find a deal, all you have to do is find a house that hasn't been taken care of or looks run down, figure out technology-wise how to find out who owns that property, ask the neighbors, ask if the house is for sale or what's going on with it. So if you guys do that, you guys might be able to find a deal. The other thing is, don't get deal happy, which means wait for the right deal that comes across your plate. But I think everybody should actually go with one of the first slides where get a salary job. You can get a mortgage in 30 days. We'll get you pre-approved. And you guys look to buy your first property the right way, where you know regardless of what goes on, your roommates are paying you $600 or $700 a month, who hopefully also have jobs, right? Will be covering your expenses. That's what I would do right now, because that's a safe way of entering real estate, because you have to live somewhere. Actually, my next advice for you would be this. I have two other pieces of advice. One, get off your parents' cell phone plan and get your own cell phone. Okay? Because that means that you respect them and you want to help them. Two, get out of your parents' house. If you want to be an adult and you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to succeed, put your back against the wall. Because if you don't, you're coming home to a house every night, the electric bill's paid for, there's food on the table, there's food in the refrigerator, and you have no rent. How are you going to succeed if you don't have to succeed? Because a real entrepreneur stands on their own 2 feet. And also a real entrepreneur asks for help when they need it. So if anybody really wants to be an entrepreneur or like be a business person, do it. But don't be comfortable. Because the only way you're going to succeed is by being uncomfortable and then proving to your parents, dad, that you bought your first house by the time you're 23 without his advice or help. You didn't tell him you were doing it. And I'm pretty sure that if you invited your dad to your new house that you bought without asking him for guidance, I'm pretty sure he'd be proud of you. Would you agree? So that's what being an adult and being responsible looks like. Different career paths? Yes, sir.
Why take such a risk going out on your own, leaving your parents' house, when I feel like a lot of people's philosophy is, I have my parents' house to back me, so I can take the biggest risk I could possibly take right now, because I know at the end of the day I'll have a house. And so I could put all my eggs into this one basket, and I could try my hardest at this. And if I succeed, I succeed really well, and I could branch out. But if I fail, at least I know there's something that'll be there.
I'm not saying don't go back to your parents' house. right? Now, I grew up a little bit different. I grew up with a tough father who grew up on the street without a father, right? I can only share my own personal experience with you. I could tell you that I have friends that were making equal to or a little bit less money than I did, that lived in their mother's basement, that would be dating girls, bringing girls, they're making $400,000 a year to their mother's house and hanging out with them in their mother's basement. I don't respect that. And any real girl, whatever you do, right, isn't going to respect you for that because you're living with your parents. The goal is to stand on your own 2 feet. That's the reality of it, right? Because one day, your parents could be taken from you, the house could be taken from you, and now you have to step up. So, again, like I said earlier in this talk, that's not for everybody. I'm telling you right now. But what I will tell you is, if you have high aspirations for yourself and you seem like a very skilled person, I could be wrong. You seem intelligent and you seem like you have a unique skill set. I'm over it too. I'm only wrong once a day, and this was my one time I was wrong. But if you give yourself that comfort and fallback, you never allow yourself truly to be able to grow up. And what I'll tell you is, the moment you leave your house and you come home to an empty fridge, a cold house because you forgot to pay your electric bill, and like, oh, where's my next paycheck going to come from? You'll have much more love and respect for your parents, and you'll understand what they go through. Because I never knew what my parents went through until I had a little mini me that was torturing me all day long, right? And I was like, damn, was I this bad to my parents, right? My son's only 5. But I tell you that in all seriousness, that the quicker you give yourself the ability to be uncomfortable, the more pressure you'll put on yourself to be able to execute and critically think. And today's world lacks critical thinking, and I make a lot of money in an industry that's 25 years older than me by being able to critically think, and Keely watches that in real time. Yes?
Bouncing off of Omar's question, but basically, seeing that you're successful, you make X amount of millions, and your kids decide, let's say, they want to go the entrepreneurship route. Do you plan on using that same philosophy once they want to branch out on their own? In regards to like, hey, in order for you to succeed to the most fullest, you're not going to be able to come back home or have this safety net. I want you to go exceed as much as you can and not be able to kind of depend on me.
That's a really good question. I think you play your sports guy at all or no? Did you play sports? What'd you play?
Basketball, everything.
All basketball?
Nah, I said everything.
You play all sports. So my belief is that being a parent is equally to being like successful as a coach. And you can't coach every kid the same way because kids respond differently. People respond differently. So how I coach you or train you or mentor you as an athlete is going to be different than me speaking to someone who's not an athlete, right? Does that make sense? So you have to know your kid, and if you know your kid or your employee or your student is not maximizing their potential, it's your goal to pull out the greatness inside of them. Not everyone's filled with greatness, right? But if you're watching somebody that has endless potential, like it's like having a Ferrari in your garage, but it's got no gas in it. You're like, well, let's put gas in it so we could drive 200 miles an hour, right? So you have to know who you are dealing with and coach them to how they respond. Now, I can't tell you what my son's going to be in life. I can't tell you what he's going to achieve. I can tell you that my dream might be, I hang out with him for the rest of my life. I make so much money that he never has to worry about anything in his life. But am I doing him a disservice by making his path that easy? Because what happens if one day I leave him $100 million, I've coddled him his whole life, and I get hit by a bus, and now he has no wherewithal how to manage money. He has no wherewithal how to work hard, right? He has no wherewithal to go out and get a job without dad helping him. I'm not at that position in life yet, and I haven't spent enough time thinking about that. I can tell you that I parent my son with tough love. I make my son work. I bring him to work with me. I bring him to meetings with me since he's 2.5 years old. I used to run a podcast in New York City that was pretty big when he was 1 year old, sleeping on my chest during the podcast, right? So my best belief is kids, people in general, learn from experience, from being in the room. And I believe I lead by example. I don't tell my son, hey son, this is how you pick up rent from our tenant. I bring him with me at 8 a.m. We wait outside. A lady comes out and hands me $1,750 in cash. And he knows that on the first of every month, we got to go to this one building that we own to pick up rent. I'm not telling him this is being a landlord or investing in real estate, but he learns subconsciously. And then he asks, Daddy, why did we go here? And why does this lady give us money? And then you answer accordingly, right? So, look, it depends on, who you're dealing with, but it also depends on where you want to be in that person's life. And if you could figure out, hey, I want my son to be the next Michael Jordan, okay. But the day your son tells you, Daddy, I don't want to be Michael Jordan, that's okay too. But everybody's different. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
So I'm sure you've had a lot of experience with partnerships and stuff in real estate.
Bad experiences. Reed, you got any bad experiences in partnerships?
So going from the experiences you've had, say for somebody going into looking for a piece of real estate, what would you tell them if they plan on partnering with somebody or working with somebody to buy a piece of real estate?
I'd like Reed's opinion on this, but my opinion is you only get into a partnership when you either lack something, right, or you don't want to do something. So let's say you want to buy a $100,000 property and you have $100,000, but you can't find the property. Go partner with somebody that knows how to find the property. You put up the $100,000, they find the property, you guys are partners, right? Hey, I want to be a doctor. Well, if a doctor knows how to perform surgery but doesn't know the right, equipment needed, well, then you hire somebody to bring in a partner that knows how to order the equipment. So I would say early on, get your feet wet the right way on your own. Get the right guidance, buy your first property on your own, and if you want to invest higher level, bigger picture, find somebody that's already doing what you're doing or want to be doing, partner with them, but bring them value. Even if you get 10% ownership of the partnership, but they're putting up all the money, finding the deal, and you're going to be managing the property, for example. Right now, if you lack resources, partner with people that have resources you don't have, and sweat equity, earn your way up to where you want to be financially. But don't get into a partnership just to have a partnership. If you don't have two quarterbacks playing in football at the same time, right? You have one quarterback. You might have a backup quarterback. Make sense? So if you're the quarterback, you need to find the receiver. You need to find the running back. You need to find your blocking in front of you. You need to find your tight end. Don't partner with somebody that brings the same skill set to the table as you do, because then you'll wind up butting heads and you don't need each other. You wind up breaking off. Yes, sir.
So you spent 65 out of the 66K on the Liberty tax. Were you a 50-50 or how did that equity work out?
That was a partnership that taught me everything. I'm still friends with the guy to this day. It's a good question. I don't know. I know I got all my money back out. I never saw any profits along the way. I never had a written agreement. I could tell you that I didn't make the $65,000 investment to really be a 50-50 partner. And I thought I was. I could tell you I probably made $1 million in mortgage business off his referrals alone. And my $65,000 was my investment or buy-in to being an adult and being involved in the business world. Think of it as that was my college tuition. Yeah. We wound up selling all that stuff off, by the way. Yeah. Any other questions? Thoughts? So we want to offer everybody the ability to get to where you want to be in an accelerated time frame. We are making an initiative called Own Houston, and we want everybody in this room to achieve all the goals and dreams that you guys have. So whatever you guys need, resource-wise, education-wise, mentorship-wise, consider me at your disposal. Obviously, I can't do this for everybody. We're doing this as our Houston initiative, Houston Push. You guys will have my cell phone number. You guys will have my email address. You guys can call me. You have access to Keely every single day. But we really want to instill the right investing methods to everybody in this room so you don't make mistakes that you'll never be able to recover from. Because the mindset you go into real estate investing today at your age will either make you or break you. I'm a guy that every single deal I've ever done, with the exception of the deal that I borrowed $400,000 at 18% because I didn't know any better, I've put my own money inside of those deals. I've never done a deal other than that deal that I was kind of forced into doing without putting my own money in the deal, because that's how you remain invested and that's how you have skin in the game.